and welcome to Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falvo. On today's show, we'll learn about the Columbian Foundation and its 80 years of history serving the Italian American community. We'll also learn more about the new South Jersey Shore edition of Monopoly. But first, SFX.com Small Business Solutions is a South Jersey company that helps people grow in more ways than one. Here to tell us about their free PC donation program is its president, Shane Squarick. Hi, Shane. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Lisa. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to finally be on.
What inspired you to start this program?
Working in technology for just about my entire life, I've often kind of gotten saddled with going and helping people fix their computers or try to update new computers or new machines. And at the end, they always have this extra equipment that they don't know what to do with. And originally, I would just try to take it and fix it up and maybe reuse it or give it to friends and family. And then my garage just got full and more full and more full of old machines and old parts of computers that I didn't really know what to do with. It happened to be that I was working with a local school district, and they were changing over a lot of their equipment, and they had probably about 200 or so old machines that weren't that old for a school district that's trying to stay up on technology. Those machines were a little out of date, out of service, and they're trying to cycle them out. And so the option was really, after they tried to sell them off and they couldn't, was to throw them away. Um, those familiar with electronics and recycling, could be a little bit of a process, and they usually just end up in a dump. And it's not that these machines weren't functional, it's just that they weren't the most modern, the most state of the art equipment. So at that point, just working with some other connections that I had and some other nonprofit organizations, I had just pinged somebody and asked, would you have a need for any extra computer equipment? As such, they did. So I had asked that particular school district if they would mind donating those machines to me instead of throwing them out in the garbage. And I would just take the time to reformat them, clean them out, upgrade whatever needed to be upgraded, and then move forward with it. I thought it was a good way to honestly take old machines that still could get some extra life out of it, maybe 5 or 10 years out of it, and give it to somebody that doesn't necessarily have that opportunity to go out and buy a new computer or even have a computer for themselves. And that's kind of how this whole idea sort of started.
It's so interesting to me because I always wondered, like, even with your phone, right? The old iPhones and what have you, what happens to them when you get rid of them? And I guess according to you, most of the time they end up at a dumpster, which seems so wasteful.
It's definitely wasteful. It's certainly not good for the environment either, because those things aren't necessarily just disappearing or kind of falling back into the earth. You'll get some businesses that'll collect old phones and they'll try to recycle the parts and things like that. But for the most part, the average person, when they're done with their device, what do you do with it? You're not taking it to the recycling center. You're throwing it in the garbage. And so that's honestly what ends up happening. It either sits in somebody's closet collecting dust, or it ends up in a garbage can somewhere. And it's not like they're unusable. They're certainly usable still. They're just we're we're a people of liking things that are fast and modern. And with our phones, even we replace them every year or 2 years. Everyone wants the newest, latest, greatest thing. It's not that your old phone is outdated or your old laptop is outdated and it's completely unfunctional. But yeah, it just, I felt the same as you, Lisa. It's just very wasteful, and I thought there might be an opportunity to kind of breathe some new life into that stuff.
Well, the difference between me and you is you know what to do with this, though. I wouldn't know. So take us through the process. You would get these old computers and refurbish them. How do you do that?
Yeah, so initially, again, it started with just friends and family that I would help them out whenever they got a new machine, and they'd say to me, hey, here's a couple laptops. We don't need them anymore. You have them. And I just collected them and I would use them as side projects. And then whenever I knew that somebody was looking for a new laptop and they didn't need it for anything crazy, maybe it was because they were getting a new job and they just needed to type a resume or something, I would wipe them all out. On the back of every device, I'll use a Windows device, for example, there's a key code for your Windows installation. And so, you've got a serial number right on there. All you have to do is just refresh the device, reformat it from factory, and you've got the key already. So it's all licensed material and it's putting it back to as factory as possible. Before I would do that, I would just check the device out, see if everything's functional. Does the hard drive still work? Is it reasonable to work for the next year or two? Is the memory up to date with whatever the latest version of Windows is at that point after I run all the updates? And if it wasn't, I would just kind of watch different marketplaces, whether it be eBay or there's other websites that government organizations like school districts and boroughs will sell surplus equipment. So I'll buy memory from old colleges that might be just cycling them out. And so I've got stashes of all these old computer parts, and I try to just upgrade where I can. So that initial project was just, all right, well, let me just give these slightly fixed up computers to people that needed them, friends, family, friends of friends, whomever. After connecting with some local runaway shelters and homeless shelters in the area, where their target, I don't want to say audience, but their target demographic was really either runaway teens, maybe women that were in an abusive relationship and they're in a shelter, or folks that just were down on their luck and just had nowhere else to go. I had been working with them on some other projects, and that's when the idea came up. Could you use some of these extra machines? I happen to have a few more laying around that I was just trying to get rid of, and I thought it was a cool opportunity for one of the runaway teen shelters just to get these kids an opportunity to be able to put together a resume, maybe apply for some jobs, and sort of still stay connected from the world, even though they're not back at their home or whatever their home environment or home situation was. Um, After that was well received, I kind of saw a bigger opportunity here to do this on a slightly larger scale. And so that's when I started seeking out to local districts. I'd find them on different government surplus websites, and I'd message them and say, I put in some bids on some stuff. I'd have a threshold that I'd be willing to spend on it. But I just started saying, if you can't get rid of them and you're going to throw them away, please let me know. I'll come pick them up from you, which is something they'd have to pay for anyway. I'll come pick them up for free. And if you have no problem with it, you can strip out whatever devices you need and I'll replace them. And then, I've had this little cycle going on. It's not as quick as I'd like it to be. Obviously, I'm only one person doing it. I've got some friends that are in the business that have helped volunteer on repurposing some machines. But yeah, as we've sort of gotten more machines in and words got out, I've got other people through connections that are saying to me, here, I've got some extra equipment too. Let me just throw it towards you. Of course, not everything is valuable. There are some machines that, their lifespan has certainly been reached, and they're better off kind of being recycled. And in that case, I'll either contract out with a recycling company and they'll come pick it up, an electronics recycling company. They'll come grab that and they'll come take that in bulk. Or I've lived down in Ocean County, and the Ocean County Recycling Center takes in those electronics as well.
I think that's very sage advice, though. If you have something that is so old, don't throw it in the garbage. Call
Sure.
exactly what you just said.
Yeah, yeah. Well, some of the electronic recycling companies, for them to come out, they want to come out for a reason. They're generally not going to come out for one computer or two computers, which is why I think a lot of people just end up tossing it in the garbage because it's hard to find a place to go. And even the recycling centers, you have to drop them off. You can't just throw it in your recycling bin. So it becomes a bit of a process. And I think that's where people kind of get lost. It's like, what do I do with this? I want to do the right thing, but it's not accessible. So at some point, maybe that gap can be bridged a little better as well.
Maybe that's a
But
new business for you.
maybe I can only spread myself so thin at this point, but it's definitely been my ambition to sort of fold this initiative that I'm doing under my primary company into its own nonprofit, and to sort of target maybe underprivileged teens or youth, and kind of leverage that technology, give them these old laptops so they can take home, and then build something around that. Maybe there's a way to sort of push them into technology, or push them into any sort of education that they might not have been exposed to without having this access to the internet.
It's a beautiful undertaking that you started here. In your estimation, how many devices have you refurbished and how many have you distributed?
Yeah, so the big one that we were really proud of happened just a little over a year ago, and we sent out 50 all-in-one desktop machines. So that's basically when you see the big monitor, everything's built into it. All you're doing is plugging in a keyboard and mouse. We sent 50 out to a bunch of homeless shelters around the state of New Jersey. Beyond that, we're up to about 200 in total. And I've got probably about 100 laptops sitting in my garage right now that my wife is nudging me to work on a little faster so we can clear out some space. So again, it's more of a slow process. It's been going on over the past, I think, two and a half years. It sort of started as a pet project during COVID. I had a lot more time to kind of do some stuff and find some hobbies. And my hobby ended up being working on more computers. but again, as word starts to get out a little bit more, and I'm getting more machines, and I'm getting more volunteers to kind of help, it seems to be picking up. And now that I've got some connections in place too, it's easier to take in machines and work on them when I know that there's a destination for them to go to. That way, they're not just kind of sitting collecting dust and taking up space. That's the other key of it too. Is I can only take in so much. I've got limited space to kind of manage, and then parts are always an issue too. I need to actually go out and buy the parts a lot of the times to fix these things up. So um, just collecting it doesn't do anybody any good. So as I've kind of found these connections and can move them out really quickly, it's certainly been a little more streamlined.
You're like a foster home for computers.
Yeah, it seems that way. And I used to laugh because my father did a lot of the same things. He would collect old devices, and I didn't, I guess, realize it when I was a kid. I just thought my father was really into computers, which of course he was. And he had boxes and boxes of all these old parts. And so years ago, I cleaned out a lot of that stuff, and it was all old and ancient stuff anyway. And now I've sort of recreated exactly what he's had in the past. What I witnessed growing up is just all these boxes of different parts that I'm just collecting from different sources and throwing it all together. So they say you're not like, or they say you are like your parents, and you don't want to believe it, but for me, it's surely certainly become that way.
Yeah, when you reach a certain age, it's kind of inevitable that that has happened.
It's
So,
scary how much you mimic the habits of what you were raised around. That's for sure.
exactly. Well, very quickly, I know
Yeah.
that you're very busy with your day job, which is creating websites for so many small businesses around the Garden State. Quickly touch on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, our day job and what sort of funds our ability to be able to do things like this, sort of the more fun initiatives. We are a web development agency by trade. Beyond that, though, we kind of take on the role of technology consulting for small businesses. So, our entry to a lot of businesses is web design because that's, for one, our most marketable skill, and it's the thing that sort of presents itself well to businesses that are really trying to expand their reach. But once we're in a business, it's a lot about process automation and figuring out, what are you doing in your day-to-day business, and how can we make that better for you, make that process quicker, make it more seamless, make there less interaction, more automation, leveraging technology. And a lot of the foundation that tends to build around your website, because then we can integrate a lot of different cloud-based pieces that allows you to operate your business kind of away from your office or your storefront, your retail location, wherever you might be, and grow your business, allowing you to kind of focus on that growth rather than the mundane type stuff that any small business owner knows kind of comes with the territory. And you're slaving away those 12 to 14 hours a day on things that you feel like can be automated. Yeah, that's what we try to fix, and that's what we try to resolve for small business owners here.
Well, it's very important. And hey, people that do business with you, after they see this segment, they'll know that they're also giving back in a way to an amazing cause. And that this is just
Yeah,
one of the causes that you're working on. I mean, this is your biggest one, but
sure.
in knowing you over the years, I know that you've been involved with so many organizations, especially
Right.
down in South Jersey.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Again, we're very fortunate that business has been good for us, especially through the COVID era. So we try to find ways that we can kind of give back a little bit under the radar. Um, Over the past couple of years, we've donated a bunch of school supplies to a couple local districts around here. Again, mostly to underprivileged youth that can't necessarily afford binders or pencils or crayons and notebooks, and they're nominal things. When you have that at your exposure or disposal, I should say, but it makes a real big difference to the students that can't necessarily afford it. Over Christmas season, we participate in a lot of school districts. They have giving trees where you buy up, you basically take tickets off the tree and buy gifts for the students. So we've, again, in partnering with some friends and some other local businesses, we've basically taken all the names that were left over on the tree that didn't get a gift purchase for them, and made sure we got them something. So there's small things like that. Outside of that, we do try to engage with some other local nonprofits that are from the area that are giving back to New Jersey on a very local level. As a father and a family person over here, you know, I find it important to build up our community, selfishly almost, because I want it to be there for my children, and I want them to also experience the same thing we did. And we know, by we I mean some of the partner businesses I work with, a lot of this started for us as we were children, right? We were given certain opportunities with our districts and whatnot. So in giving back to those kids, we feel like we're setting them on a better trajectory for their future, so they don't feel hopeless, and they feel that they're getting the same opportunities as the next guy, regardless of what their social status might be.
Well, we are officially now in the season of giving, and you epitomize that, Shane. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for taking the time to come on here today.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. It's always good to see you.
The Columbian Foundation is celebrating 80 years as New Jersey's premier Italian-American organization. Joining me now to discuss its history and future is the president of the foundation, Michael Calabro. Mike, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for having me.
Mike, I have been following the Columbian Foundation and all of its initiatives for many years, but please educate our audience what the Columbian Foundation is.
Well, it began in 1941. A group of professional men, businessmen, got together in the basement of Columbus Hospital, not 2 blocks from where I am now in my Newark office. And they decided that they were tired of the Italian Americans being discriminated against and not achieving what they were capable of achieving in life. So they got together and they formed the Columbian Foundation, and they decided that to educate young men and women of Italian American descent would be the way to get out of this cycle of prejudice and not having power. So they felt that education would empower young men and women, and they put together some fundraising, scholarships, things to gain notoriety. They participated in the Columbus Day Parade, of course, and we still do it today. It's 80 years, and we're still raising money, giving away scholarships to Seton Hall Law, now Rutgers Medical Center, and NJIT for engineering. So that's how we're progressing. We're still doing it 80 years later, and it's worked well.
In studying the history of the Columbian Foundation Gala and the attendees that would come out for that, you've had the A-list of the A-list when it comes to Italian-American pop culture. Luciano Pavarotti, Rocky Marciano. Talk to us about that illustrious reputation.
Yes, every year we have our fundraising events, our main fundraising event. It's our black tie gala, dinner dance. And each year we try to pick someone of note to come and share with us that evening. We honor individuals of Italian American descent that have made lifetime achievements, and with that, people come. They want to see these people of note, and that's how we raise money. We have a beautiful dinner dance, and we honor individuals in the Italian American community that are deserving of our respect and honor, and that's how we raise money for scholarships. And at those dinner dances, we bring in the scholarship recipients, and they're there, and they're young men and women in the medical field. They Rutgers Medical School, Seton Hall Law School, and now NJIT engineering students. So we give out scholarships to help them along, to achieve, to become successful, to gain notoriety as Italian Americans. So we have our piece of the pie.
What activities do you do year-round to engage your members and the community?
We have a golf outing at our club. Pat Gianetta and I we joined a club in Bloomfield, and it's a great day. We raise money. We have a great time. It's about 80 golfers. We have a dinner afterwards, great prizes, and it's going to take place again this May. And beyond that, we have a bocce tournament in Cedar Grove at the old Toole Park. And that is so much fun. We have around 14, 15 teams, a lot of mostly Italian Americans, and we have great prizes, great food, music. It's just a blast. Everybody loves it. And then the other fun thing we do, and that's a fundraiser as well. Both the golf tournament and the bocce tournament are fundraisers. Then we have what's called our flag raising on November 11th. November 11th is Veterans Day, and each year we go to Columbus Park. It's in front of St. Francis Church on Bloomfield Avenue and 8th Street. And there are 2 flag poles, one with the American flag and the other with the Italian flag. We retire those flags. We bring them down. We usually have the Newark Fire Department, Newark Police, Bloomfield Police. We have military presence. The military, it's usually Navy or Marines, will come and take down the flags, and we raise new flags each year. It started about 12 years ago, riding down Bloomfield Avenue to my office. I saw that they were in tatters. It was disgusting. The American and Italian flag were just ripped to shreds. It was just horrible to look at. And it must have been like that for 10 years. So we decided, with the permission from the then Newark administration, to have this event on Veterans Day, because we're there to honor the veterans. And that's why we have the military presence and the fire and the police. And it's a good time. And afterwards, Pat, Gina, and I host an event at our office. We have a basement in our office that we host such events at. So each year, it's not a fundraiser. It was just a get together to honor people who sacrificed their lives for our country. We do so proudly.
Where can people find out more about the Columbian Foundation?
Yeah, we have a website, the Columbian Foundation, and there's applications. Feel free, fill out an application. I'm sure you know someone in our group. We're 35. We're pretty, we're pretty well known. Someone will sponsor you. Fill out the forms, so you'll be vetted, and then you can join us. We do good things. Like I said, we don't just give out scholarships. We donate to needy individuals. Sick children is one of the main things we focus on. But education is our main fundraiser or main expenditure.
Michael, thank you so much for coming on here and enlightening us on all the wonderful work the Columbian Foundation does.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. I appreciate your work. You do a great job.
A new version of Monopoly will feature street names and businesses from around the South Jersey Shore. Joining me now to discuss the new South Jersey Shore edition of Monopoly is Top Trump's USA Partnership Manager, Brooke Gorman. Thank you for coming on the show, Brooke.
Thank you so much for having me.
I am so excited to learn all about this new Monopoly game. Tell us how the decision came to be to harken back to the Jersey Shore small businesses.
Yeah, exactly. So I love this question. I think the South Jersey Shore is so unique and has so much personality. But whenever people have asked me why the South Jersey Shore, it's just so obvious. It has so much history, so much local pride. There's people who have been visiting the South Jersey Shore with their family for years. The Victorian houses in Cape May, the boardwalk in Wildwood. I've even heard stories of Harriet Tubman and the Underground Railroad in Cape May. So I am just so excited that Monopoly has finally come to the South Jersey Shore.
Can you give us a little insight as to what we can expect from the game?
So what we're asking is that anyone who's from the South Jersey Shore who has visited for years to send their recommendations for what they want to see on the board. So the iconic landmarks, your favorite, where you got married, where you went on your first date, where you went on a field trip. We really just want to encompass the South Jersey Shore and put on the board what the locals want to see.
What are some of the suggestions that you've gotten so far from the public?
So we have gotten, the Cape May Lighthouse. We were at the Cape May Zoo today. We have some piers, we have some beaches, but it's still really early on. So those are just a few that have trickled in. I've heard even, putting community chess cards about, is it a hoagie or is it a sub? And lots of fun ways to keep it customized and make it feel very South Jerseyan.
Oh, you could have a field day with that. I mean, between a sub and a hoagie, pork roll, I don't know what that is, and Taylor ham, so many things, right?
That's exactly what I've been talking about. And that's why I've been in the South Jersey Shore this whole week, just talking to locals, and hearing their opinions and really getting the vibe of the city.
Just so our viewers know, when you say South Jersey Shore, what areas are you talking about?
Everything is south of Atlantic City, all the way to Cape May. We're also including Sea Isle City, Avalon, Stone Harbor, all of those beach town cities that in the South Jersey Shore.
So you recently just had a launch event. Tell us about it.
So the game will be coming out at the end of June. So it'll be just before the 4th of July weekend, get the whole community together. So we announced the game at the Cape May Zoo. It was so fun. We had Mr. Monopoly there. We had all the kids running up to him, so excited to meet him. It was so fun to interact with the locals and finally announce that Monopoly is coming to the South Jersey Shore.
How can local businesses and nonprofits get involved in the creation of the game?
Yeah, exactly. So that just comes into how we want the locals to give their input on who they want to see on the board. So how they can do that is they just send an email to South Jersey Shore at toptrumps.com. Send all of the nonprofits you want to see featured on the board, send in some of your favorite businesses. And it really does come down to a vote on who the locals want to see that makes it on the board.
Love it, Brooke. Where can people find out more about this and everything else you're doing?
If you go to Top Trumps, you can see some of our past city editions that we've done. We'll give you an idea of this project that we're working on. Also, any questions you have, you can send to that same email of South Jersey Shore at toptrumps.com.
Brooke, thank you so much for coming on here today. Super excited for this game coming out in June.
Yes, thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
Thank you for joining me on another episode of Your New Jersey. I'm Lisa Marie Falbo. We'll see you back here next week.